Hello, everybody. Happy 2024.
Hey,
Even though it's been 2024 for
hello, hi.
3 months now. Thank you for tuning in
Oh,
to ChannelBK. I am Brian. That's Joshua Kirk.
hello, hi.
If you've been watching this show, you know the drill. It's what's on repeat, January through March. Um, we're gonna be doing two albums each, and we're gonna be doing a single each. Josh, what is your single that you're discussing?
Yeah, this artist, we've known her to be a real shapeshifter, where she likes to do kind of a different sound and go for a certain kind of aesthetic with every album. And it's Miss Annie Clark, better known as Saint Vincent. Um, the single is called Broken Man. So yeah, I just mentioned that Saint Vincent is an artist who's you never really know what to expect with her records because of like she kind of goes in all these different directions, and I think that's especially true of her last three records. Like self-titled, it's great, and that album is kind of like raw, sort of minimal, but was still kind of weird and out there. And it definitely was kind of a guitar centric album for the most part. And then Maction was kind of like her pop record. And then Daddy's Home, she pretty much did the whole like 70s thing with the Sonics. And I mean, even with her looks and like what she like wears all these album cycles, like yeah, she definitely is very much like yeah, she's essentially been like three been like many different artists like across her career. And hearing this single and then seeing some of the people involved with this new album, it definitely is clear that like they're gonna go in that she's kind of going in a little darker, edgier direction, and kind of like this is the most since self-titled that I think she's relied a lot on guitars and kind of just kind of like this big rock sound. And dude, like this song, this the whole reason I even suggested we continue What's on Repeat is because this freaking song, I've been playing it like I mean I played it four times in a row, like the day it dropped. And and yeah, I just when I heard it, I was kind of like the way it kicks off with that beat, the boo boo, and then she's just like, I'm the street, I'm a case-ass killer. Like, yeah, I was like, ooh, this sounds devilish. Already I'm into this. And then like those drums kind of come in. And then there's like those guitars, which are just like, they're just like so like they're thick, they're heavy, and yeah, it's like hearing it for the first time. I don't know if I maybe had my volume up a bit too loud, but like the way those guitars are mixed and how they sound, like yeah, it's just loud. Like it's just loud and really in your face. And yeah, hearing it, I was like, whoa, this is so not like what her last record shit. This isn't even like what her last two records were. Even her vocals, there's like an intensity to her vocals on here that like we haven't really seen from her on her before. And yeah, I think I'm excited for this new album just from hearing this single. So far, it's probably my favorite song of the year, although there's maybe at least one song on one of the records I'm going to talk about that's kind of in that's kind of in kind of a toss up with that in terms of what my favorite song I've heard all year is. And like and yeah, and yeah, this track is dope. Like I'm very excited for this album, and it's coming out like maybe like over it's coming out like a month from like when we're actually shooting this. Hmm.
It's so funny that you just said the thing about this being your favorite song and there's a song on one of the records that's a toss up, because I literally have the same thing. So I'll bring that up once I get to my albums. But so my song, I'm so stupid. Like, so I was gonna talk about one of the Vampire Weekend singles, because you know they've been gone for a while and I'm really into Vampire Weekend. And um but for some reason I was so dumb to like overlook this song, and I was like, oh my gosh, because this is probably my favorite song so far this year. It's Richie featuring Amine, Dizzy. So context, Injury Reserve is a group that I really, really love. I know Josh also has stuff about them that he likes as well. And obviously after Groggs died, they kind of finished out their album cycle. They toured a lot and they became a group called By Storm. So Parker and Richie are now in a group called By Storm. They put out a single last year, which I really like, which was kind of their brand new, like, this is who we are now. This is how we're continuing. But then out of nowhere, Richie starts posting, look, By Storm is By Storm. We're doing that. I need an album. I need to do my own. Like, I have to put out, something. And I will say the first single and the third single, they're not really doing it for me. Like, they're definitely odd and experimental. But from what I was expecting and the perception of like him talking about, hey, I'm going to do a solo album real quick, I'm like, okay, he's still going to do maybe off the wall stuff, but he clearly wants to put something out that's maybe a lot more in your face. That's like a rap album sort of thing. This Dizzy song, oh boy, I love the music video. I love the music video. I love the it's like some weird trip hop jazz rap sounding song. And Richie's trademarks and his sound and his voice sound amazing on the beat. And many times you came around. I love that. So catchy. I think the part where Amine comes on the song is funny because in his verse he talks about, something about a urinal. And in the music video, Richie literally looks over at him and he's peeing next to him. And I think again, Amine is just one of those underrated artists. Like I know he's not like the biggest rapper. I know Caroline was kind of that song that really popped for him, but like I really liked Limbo. I thought the like that kind of like that like mixtape thing that he did where it was like a shorter album or EP, that was kind of interesting. As we know, Josh and I really like Kate Tremine, yeah, Kate Tremine. I was trying to think if that was the way it was pronounced. Like, we actually really like that album. He's just very charismatic and I love his flow, and he's funny without it coming across as like punchliney. To me, I think By Storm musically and creatively is probably going to be what I'm more like. I'm really interested in what Parker and Richie are going to do next together. But this album is clearly going to be like, I'm Richie. I'm just going to rap, have some weird beats. And again, I think Dizzy was the perfect kind of encapsulation of that. I hope the rest of the album is a little bit more like in our faces like that, because I think the other two singles are kind of okay. Um, but so Josh had a really good point, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like you're reading my mind because I have the same point. I'm going to talk about that album first. An album that I'm interested to have a little bit of a conversation because I didn't want to say much in our talk because I knew we were going to shoot. My first album, it's the new Idols record, Tank, Tang. Well, I guess that's kind
Yeah,
of,
I have no idea how to say it either.
yeah. It's their brand new record following up Crawler, which came out at the end of 2021. Josh and I had first off, Gift Horse. I'll just get that out of the way. Gift Horse is fighting with Dizzy as my favorite song of the year because I think that song is great. I love how creepy it is. I love the boom 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 boom. And I
And then
just
of course it's like, oh, look at him
yeah. And then
go.
on the chorus, it's great and it sounds amazing. I love the crazy breakdown near the second half where Joe's going off and it's just like boom, 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 boom. Like, it's so good. But this album has been very contested. So I was seeing reviews for it. I was hearing people talk about it. And Josh, we had this conversation where Josh, even if Josh and I disagree, Josh, I think, is a really good explainer of like his like he's really good at really diving deep into certain things on an album. So when he sent me his opinion, I wasn't like nervous. I was more like, oh man, because he knows that I'm kind of like weird with idols where I think their first record's really solid, second and third record are fantastic. And I actually like Crawler. I don't listen to it as much, but I still think Crawler was good. And I think it definitely gave them a chance to change things up a little bit. And I still like the record, but I know that Idols is a band that I think a lot of people are maybe either getting tired of or they're feeling like maybe they're kind of there's no real way forward. But when I started hearing stuff about this record and I was hearing it's like a love album, like it's love songs, the entire album, I'm like thinking to myself, like, okay, which I mean, it's not shocking because I think it's kind of become something that is obvious, especially with like Joe. But I heard Dancer, the fact that it was an LCD sound system collab, I'm like, huh? And when I heard that song, I'm like, yeah, this sounds like a Idol song. Like it wasn't like it was the same thing they've done before, but it definitely had the trademarks of LCD sound system of Idols, excuse me. So I'm like, okay, whatever. When this album comes on, I'm like, okay. And then, like I said, Gift Horse is wild. I love that song. But the first half of this record, up until Dancer, is very interesting. So we got Pop, 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 which is a song that I feel like I kind of have grown to really like. Like I don't know what about it that I like. It's odd with the drum beat and the way that Joe is on it. Roy is a fantastic song. I love the chorus. I think that's fantastic. I love kind of like the slow build with the dong, dong, and Joe's kind of lurking singing it, and then the way he builds it I think is fantastic. I think a gospel is shockingly beautiful. I know that's a song I feel like people will listen to and go, "What? What? This is not really what I want to hear from them." I get it, but it's different and I think they do it well. And then Dancer. I think from Grace onwards, it kind of goes all over the place. I don't like Grace. I think Hall and Oates is a really like cool idea. I love how it comes across more like I think Idols is, it's in your face. It sounds like mosh pit music, right? But their stuff, like especially their second album, it doesn't feel like it's like everyone's jumping on top of each other and we're like punching each other. Like it feels more like everybody, like we're all, like don't fight a man with a perm. Like the way the bass comes in and everyone, it feels like there's these builds to how they do these songs. Hall and Oates just feels like the moment that riff comes on, da na na na, there's Hall and Oates is playing, da, ba, ba. It just feels like it goes crazy, and it's just so in your face for them, which is very funny. And then Jungle, I think is a solid track. Gratitude, I think is solid. And then Monolith is kind of like a weak way to end the album personally. But I don't know. I don't love this album. I do listen to it a lot. I was debating between this and the Brittany Howard record because I think the Brittany Howard record is better. But I've just been
Oh
listening
man,
to the
so
songs
good.
on here. Yeah, like we've talked about how we really like that album, excuse me. Um, but this record I go back to more. Like I think the songs on here I really like, and it's something that they're doing stuff differently, and I hope people don't get tired of Idols, but I'm hoping that there is going to be this interesting reset with them because I can see where people are coming from
Yeah.
with the mentality of like how Idols have been putting out music and stuff, but a record that I was spoiler, I was shocked and so happy that Josh ended up liking because this is an artist that I hold very close to my heart. He is someone I actually saw open for Ryan Key when he went solo from Yellow Card before they got back together. Um, and I loved his first album, and it's been a while. It's been a while. It was the end of 2019 where we got the last record from him. So it's been a bit. It's been a little over 4 years now, and he's not like the most big prominent artist. but he definitely makes a certain kind of music that I think some people may hear and they may be like, oh no, like I'm not into this. But I think his songwriting and his voice are really what kind of elevates him. It is Corey Wells with Harboring the Hurt I've Caused. Um, my biggest complaint, it's too short. It's 9 songs. And it's like it's about just 30 minutes. But goddamn, like Corey is just one of my favorite singer-songwriters. He is intense. His emotion comes through. I think his playing is fantastic. He doesn't fall into a lot of the traps that these kind of like he calls himself a Panera Bread background music guy. And like he doesn't fall into a lot of those traps. Like again, it's not like Corey is doing anything that reinvents music. That's not necessarily why I love him. I just think his personality and his inflection and like watching him live, he's great. I've seen him live twice. I ended up getting to see him by himself as well here, and I got to have a nice conversation with him and tell him like, look, man, like I got my girlfriend loving your music and like, it's I just hope that one day maybe like you get some more ears on you because I think you're so talented. I think the main upsetting thing is like 2 of the 9 songs on here I heard like a while ago. And they're not my favorites of his. Do You Like That You Love Me and Breathe Again? Do You Like That You Love Me? I think is good. I like the way he composes that song. Breathe Again, I think is probably his like most like that to me sounds very much like what people are afraid of with music like this. Like I think that's probably his more commercially song. There's some stuff about it that I feel like he kind of doesn't put a lot of what he's great at in that song. It's not a bad song. It's just it definitely feels off for me. Rest of this album, bangers. So the way that the freaking album opens with Harboring the Hurt I've Caused, I think that sets the stage for the entire album. I think that is a fantastic opener. Gravity is probably tied for one of my favorite songs. I love just the groove on
Oh
here.
yeah, I was just listening to that song before coming on here. Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah, like I think the way he sings on it and his storytelling is really great. Again, like you're not getting like some of my favorite singer-songwriters who are more like modern, like I think a Tallest Man, but Tallest Man is a lot more like he's very nature eccentric, like he has a lot of nature in his music, right? Someone like Sun Kill Moon, where again his whole appeal is just the way he kind of writes like these just paragraphs of stuff. I haven't listened to Sun
Yeah.
Kill Moon in a long time, like none of his new stuff anyways, just because of everything going on with him. But like a lot of singer-songwriters that I've gotten into, or like Sufjan, right?
Oh yeah.
Corey is very much like not in that wheelhouse. He very much is kind of, you again, you know what you're getting. Like you listen to him, it's a guy with a guitar, he's, screaming and singing his heart out, and he sounds great while doing it. I think his volume control is great. It kind of has that like Chester Bennington approach of like he's so good at being able to have this uncontrolled violence in his voice, but such a great control when he brings it back and he can sing really well. Let's see here. Hopeless was the first like big single to come out for the album when he announced there was a new album. I love that song. Natural Disaster, I think, is a like haunting like song from The Approach and like his perception on it and how he feels that he, like God, it's so great. That song is just so great. I think Empty is a very clever song for what he's writing about. Um, I think the whole metaphor there, the whole glass half full, glass half empty kind of mindset and how he feels about that and all that sort of stuff. Um, Breathe Again, obviously I brought up Reprise is probably tied for my other favorite song on this album because oh my god, this song is like just heartbreaking. Like it's kind of hard to listen to. It's not an easy song. The fact that it's the second to last song on the album too kind of hits you. And then the one thing I will say about his debut that maybe the one song I didn't like is the last song. The last song definitely kind of came across as like lovey-dovey, which I mean, maybe it was because I know he got married and maybe that was kind of the whole approach of it is after all this pain, there's this, happiness and joy. I think Long Long Time is a much better outro. I think the
Oh
way
yeah, and it's a Linda Ronstadt cover.
I just want Corey to get more recognition. It's one of those things where like there's all these conversations going out now where people get pissed when like a certain artist becomes big in like mainstream or like it's like, oh, someone's gonna ruin it, or oh, we only know them for these TikTok things and blah 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 blah. And like, because I know Novo Amor is an artist that I really got into, and I know one of his songs blew up on TikTok. And I remember being at his concert and everyone got so crazy for the song that blew up on TikTok, and then everyone just kind of hung out for the rest of the set. So it's like that kind of double-edged sort of like, do I want that to happen to Corey? Do I, but I just want more people to listen to him because I don't think his music is like, it's not like the most experimental thing in the world. It's very much what it is. It's just, I think what he does is so well, and that more people should listen to it because he's just so talented and just his voice I think is so commanding and he sounds
Oh
like
yeah.
that in the music industry. Like he sounds like he has been around for so long and he knows what to do, how to sing, how to sound while singing. This album I think is a lot more ambitious than his first record. His first record definitely came across like every song was really solid. He had great like back and forth. I think he had great topics. This album almost feels like every song was like life or death. He's like, I just got to put my ass into this song, into this song. Because the fact that it's
Yeah.
songs too, and after all this time,
Even if maybe a certain type of music is not completely for me, I ultimately recognize quality stuff when I hear it. And I know you're kind of the same way about
hmm,
certain genres too. Uh, but yeah, I definitely went into this album being like, oh, well, like maybe the songwriting and how he's performing will get me. And yeah, and yes, I would say yeah that ended up being the case. So yeah, thank you very much for yeah putting me on this guy's music. Speaking of artists that I've been following since like maybe 2019, and I ended up putting the other person on them this year. That is the case for this particular rock band that it's kind of in an interesting place where like they're they're kind of two different things. They're both this like in your face, loud kind of punk band and also this kind of somewhat dreamy, catchy kind of like indie I guess like girl rock is kind of how I would describe this band pretty much. And yep, I guess you really want me to say that band name, do ya?
it's gonna be
Mannequin
funny.
Pussy.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And trust me, like if you're wondering why in the New York Times now they're printing out the word pussy, it's because of this band. Um, the new album is called I Got Heaven. Um, so similarly to you with Corey Wells, in 2019 I got into this band with their last record, Patience. Really liked it at the time, still really like it now, and I actually think you would really dig that album too if you like went back. Um, and just recently, about a month ago, I actually did a deep dive and checked out their first two records as well. I wanted to kind of get an idea before hearing this record, and it also helps the fact that the albums are like that all it also helps that like all their records are like very short too, like because like their first two albums they're not even like 20 minutes long, they're kind of these. So their debut from 2014 is very much kind of a quick to the point lo-fi kind of punk record with some songs were in your face, others were more kind of poppy, and then if you even kind of had a bit of a post-rock feel that reminded me of Slint a little bit. Um, and
Okay.
then and then on their second record, Romantic, is pretty much, yeah, kind of this straight hardcore, and like I'd even categorize it as like a screamo record too.
So was that
There's
did that record was that the record that came out in 2019 or was that before 2019?
20 it was before 2019.
Okay. So then my question is like it's I'm actually very interested that you brought that up because Touche Amore is kind of the same way where like their first two records are very short. They're
Yeah.
just boom, boom, boom. And then is Survived By, which I did a classic review of,
Yeah.
is Survived By was kind of the moment where they're like, okay, we're gonna kind of make kind of some pop punky songs, but we're still going to be aggressive. But the songs are going to be a little longer. The idea is going to be more fleshed out. Was their album in 2019 like was there like a shift there? Because of is
Yes.
okay, so that's when they
Oh
start
yes.
shift. Okay, because that's interesting you brought that up because that's what I immediately thought of. Because now they make a lot longer albums and longer songs, whereas before it
And,
was like in your face. So that's interesting.
and also I'll say they're both signed to Epitaph Records too,
That
these
is
two
true.
bands.
Okay.
And like the and yes, with Patience they expanded to, I mean, it was like cleaner sound and also like kind of cleaner songs too, and they kind of honed it in with the songwriting a bit more. And it's been like about kind of like with Corey, if they this band hasn't put out a record really since 2019. They did have a little EP in between named Perfect, which I remember hearing when it dropped and being like, this is cool. It's Mannequin Pussy. It is what it is. But like revisiting it recently, it's actually grown on me a bit. Like, and I would say I love all their records really. I mean, second out first records probably my least favorite just in terms of maybe just the sound of it. And then I would say Patience after that. And then I would say the EP Perfect, and then like Romantic is probably my second favorite. So yeah, the point I'm making here is, in my opinion, this is their best album so far. I mean, I was excited to hearing those singles that came out because they put out like four songs before the album came out, and like self-titled track, pretty fucking banker of an intro right there, because it's like it's so wild to me. Like it starts out in your face, and and then it kind of simmers down a little bit. And one of my favorite lyrics I've heard in a song recently, "What if Jesus himself ate my fucking snatch?" Like, yeah, that's iconic right there. And then the chorus is like very catchy. Like, yeah, it's similar to vocalists we already mentioned, like Corey Wells. Like, yeah, yeah, it's crazy. She can go from being like, I got time with unleashed to like, ooh, I got heaven. Yeah, yeah, and it's like, yeah, that song is fantastic. Great way to open the album. Loud Bark I think is really cool and eerie. I really liked the direction with that. Nothing Like is, I think, like, besides maybe another song later on the album, this is like close to being like my favorite song on here. Like, it's just the structure to that song I think is really well done, and just yeah, and like the little melodies on here, like how she's like performing on here is like great, and it just fits what the song is doing sonically, and like that little like that little melody has been just stuck in my head like since I like first heard even just a little bit of the song. Um I Don't Know You is kind of a more like kind of it's one of the slower moments on here, but it's like the way these lyrics are written, like they're so like simple, but they're so just like powerful when you uh really like listen, you know, saying like I know one, two things I heard about you and uh like three little things I've heard about you, but like I wouldn't tell you and then it kind of and then in the second half guitars get a little more like yeah, yeah, and it's like cool how the song is like beautiful, but yet it still sounds kind of filthy. Like, yeah, I think that's really cool. Sometimes I think is one of the more just unique sounding songs on the album in terms of like uh the way she's singing, going from "Eat your tiny pills" to "What you got." Yeah, yeah, and I think like the way that it goes from being just kind of spacious, but then in the chorus, it's like
This song, this was the song that I officially said, okay, I'm into it. Because I'll be honest, I think up until this song, I didn't hate it. I didn't
yeah,
think the album was bad, but I was kind of like, oh, okay, like I wasn't ready for that to be what it was. Like I was like, okay, these songs are fine. And then sometimes I felt like this was the moment the album, like, because I felt like after this song, it almost felt like every other song was like intense. Like it
crazy.
kind of got crazy after this. And I think this is my favorite song on the album for sure. And I think after this moment, I was like 100% into the album because I think it started off slower than I thought it would be because I saw how short it was and I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be like
Okay,
in my face. And I'm kind of sitting there like, okay, these are good songs, but I wasn't expecting this. And then
man.
sometimes, like you said it perfectly, it's very unique. And I was like, oh wow. And then okay happens. And
Oh
I'm like,
man,
oh,
holy
okay,
shit.
here we go. This is what I was expecting.
Yeah, yeah, like, oh my God, like that song is, yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And I was just like, I already, I kind of know a little more about this band than you, so I already knew they could dish out something that was just really like just wild. But man, like I was not ready for this to be like it just sounds heavy and like and yeah, it's like the transition from it being like da 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 to just like you want a slice of heaven, you know what I want, and then just the breakdown near the end, like da 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 da. What you say to me? Like, yeah, yeah, that one's crazy. Split me open, dog. Like, holy shit. I think this is the best song on the album. Like, I had this like crazy revelation with it. Uh, it where for a while I kind of considered Nothing Like the best song, and I still love it. But like, yeah, this track is just yeah, it's just such a great like culmination of yeah, it starts out like all like dreamy and like yeah, with these lyrics, it's like very clever and just like it's kind of I like how it kind of seems like it's just a straight love song, like at first, but then that little like moment in the bridge right before the transition into the second half, she's saying like, "I'm worried I want you with the power of 1,000 suns burning as one," and then da 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 da. Like I found myself just I was listening to this album straight through again recently, and when that part hit, I found myself just like singing along and long and I don't know, and also like those lyrics, like I don't know what it was about it. It just really like I guess it just really spoke to me. Like and yeah, I think this album's awesome. I genuinely don't have really any I don't really have much in the way of like negative to say about it. About it. I think so far it's probably my favorite album of the year. I'm definitely I'd be interested to see anything tops it, but if this album ends up being like it for me by the end of the year, I'd be really I'd be like, oh cool, like cool, that's definitely great that made it that high. And yeah, believe me, I was so nervous telling you to go listen to this record because I know like with certain you're kind how you kind of tend to be up and down about certain things, but I'm happy you ended up really digging it because I think what they're doing is so like I kind of figured well I kind of figured well because I was watching one of your videos where you said I do like rock bands that are just straight up just wild and kind of just attack your senses and stuff like that, and they kind of do that. And I also know like and I was like, well, I know he really likes people like Beach Bunny and Snail Mail who kind of do similar kind of indie rock. My next album though, we had an interesting little like discourse about this record, and yeah, and clearly I'm kind of in the minority, but you know what, Brian, like
But
I don't
fuck it.
care.
Fuck it.
Like
Go for it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's and I'm spoiling it obviously, like I did with Mannequin Pussy, but it's the self-titled Bleachers record. Jack Antonoff, I feel like everyone knows who he is at
Hmm.
this point. He's worked with some of the biggest artists of today, and he's won a Grammy for like best producer or something like that. And everyone seems to have their own opinion about him. I am kind of in the I definitely think like Melodrama and Norman fucking Rockwell are probably my two favorite records he's like worked on. And then this decade I've really struggled to really like full on love something that he's produced. There's stuff he's worked on that I've liked. I mean, the newest 1975 record is probably the closest he's come to me being like, "Oh, okay. I do fuck with this. I do kind of fuck with this." And I kind of went into this record being, well, this is a record of his own music, so yeah, I'll be able to overlook whatever kind of issues I may have with him if it's just yeah, him just doing whatever he wants. And this album, like, granted, this is kind of like you with Idols. This is a record that I don't think is necessarily like, oh my God, or amazing or anything like that. It's just something that I happen to listen to a lot. Like, I mean, now there's at least three songs on the album we both agree are like bangers. Like Modern Girl, like, dude, like
Sounds like
that
it really
sat.
doesn't sound like anything else on the album, which is really weird to me.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
sounds like its own
like
thing.
oh yeah, yeah. But man, the sax lick, like the like that's been stuck in my head. And I love how this track kind of feels like what songs like say Stop Making This Hurt were, where it's like very catchy, very fun, but like the difference being it's a little more it feels kind of off kilter and kind of more just raw in terms of the energy. I mean, Jack is like screaming his guts out on here too. Like, yeah, yeah, that song is yeah, yeah, it's a banger. And my favorite song on this album has got to be Tiny Moves. Like, yeah, that song, the way I love just the way he's singing on it, like the whole watch it, stop watching it all come down, watch it go round and round, the tiniest moves you make. Like, yeah, yeah, his falsetto on it's great, and just the sound of it, the build is
It's
great,
beautiful.
and
It's beautiful.
oh, oh yeah, and dude, the key change, and then just the sha la la la, like yeah, it's great, and then Call Me After Midnight, only call me after midnight, boom boom boom, pull up on your love like yeah yeah like fun fact, that song Kevin Abstract and Romil of Brockhampton fame are actually like co-writers and co-producers on this track, like them and Ryan Beatty, and it's you can kind of tell because it kind of has this like old school boy band kind of vibe to it. Self-respect, I really like. That song Florence and the Machine. Florence from Florence and the Machine is on this track. She's sounding great, and I think just the way that song progresses, I think is really cool and creative, and like even a track like Isimo, like I think that's probably one of the most just well written songs on the album from like a lyrical standpoint, and like I kind of got national vibes from it too, and like maybe other songs on the album, and and that is a compliment. Like man, like I think yeah, like that song is really beautiful, and it's and then like Woke Up Today is a nice little like acoustic ditty. It's like woke up today and I forgot. Yeah, yeah, like I really like that. And now I will say, as much as I really like this album, I think I do have a couple of issues with it. So there's maybe some complaints Brian made that I do agree with. One of them is like the sound of this record, obviously, I'll say, it definitely, I've told Brian this, I feel like sonically this is an improvement, I feel like, from the last Bleachers record, and I definitely think like this album, like a lot of my usual like issues with the way his production sounds, thankfully were a little more minimal on here than they were on maybe say like what's an album? Yeah, yeah. Here's a random one. Like the new Florence and the Machine record, I guess. Um yes, so yeah, that was great to hear, but still like you listen to this record and a lot of the touches on here are pretty much the same as we've heard on everything he's produced, at least since Norman fucking Rockwell, I think. Um and I think the album unfortunately doesn't have a great ending. Like Ordinary Heaven. Yeah, yeah. I mean, beautiful idea, but like it's not even a fully fleshed out song, and I totally did not need that spoken part at the end of the song. It added nothing to it. And then like The Waiter, I think, I mean it's a fine song, but like yeah, like but yeah, that auto tune doesn't really fit on it. Like I feel like that's one thing Jack slips in near the end of this record where I'm like, yeah, you totally didn't need to do this. Like, I'm not saying it's like I'm not on here being like, oh, this sounds like trash. Like, I'm just like, yeah, yeah, it just felt a little unnecessary. And it's on We're Gonna Know Each Other Forever as well, which is a bit of a shame because I do really like that song, and I think it's very well written, but like yeah, yeah, totally need to be there. And then he has that really from like that weird like I know it's other forever, like that inflection onward, the album is kind of meh. Like and but yeah, like despite these things, um I did end up really enjoying this record. I was shocked that I did, and it's one of those albums that's kind of had an ebb and flow for me of like, you know, it grows off me, but then it grows on me again, and but regardless of maybe how I feel about it, like on whatever listen I'm on, I have I've consistently really liked it, and yeah, part of it has to do with me. Maybe I just never really connected with Bleachers before, and I had really only listened to their last record. So in a way, like Bleachers are kind of in this odd space where they seem to be losing some people, but then winning others. And I would say, yeah, I I ended up being the latter here.
There's those conversations where, like, people will make fun of an artist, right? Or they'll throw an artist under the bus. And
Yeah.
like feel like Hobo Johnson is a person like that where like I actually think he puts out really good stuff and then there's certain things after really his height when like he was really putting out quality where it's like no, this is what people probably think of him like it's the idea of me listening to this record, I'm like, "Oh, this is what people probably think of Bleachers." Like this is probably why people don't like Jack. I'm listening to this album and I'm thinking like I'm with you. I think Jack has always been one of those really weird people where he can put out banger singles and then it's like he doesn't know how to fully flesh out an album. And here's the thing, I've not listened to that first album probably since it came out, but like Gone Now, I think is probably their best because I think it's big, it's bombastic, it has a lot of catchiness to it. Some of the B-side stuff maybe is not the best, but like his best stuff, he does all the stereotypes of what this music is, of what this genre is. Like you said, the saxophone or the kind of songwriting that feels like you're watching a John
Oh,
Hughes
yeah,
movie.
he fucking
Right?
loves Springsteen for
Yeah,
sure.
like he loves Springsteen, and then he loves kind of that era of like the
I mean, I
80s.
get that. I mean, I grew up with Springsteen. I can fuck with him for sure. Yeah.
But it's like it sometimes it doesn't make compelling music. I actually really like the last album. I think it's kind of all over the place musically, but I did not feel like there was any energy in this album. And I think Modern Girl was a setup because uh, nothing on this album sounds like that to me. Like in my opinion, that song feels so different. I guess like Jack is one of those people as a producer where it's not like I really have hated him or even loved him. I think he's very respectable and I think he's good at what he does. And like you said, he's done great stuff. The problem is I feel like with Bleachers, he always has this energy. And I remember Modern Girl was done. And then I'm sitting here going, is the rest of this album not even going to, like, it just sounds so like lifeless. And it just, nothing has energy to it. And there's no like, and it feels like every stereotype on this album is so like, wow, like that's so, like, he can be corny, but I think he's very talented. And I think he knows he's corny in certain ways, but he makes it work because one, I think he's a very good performer, but because I think he's very self-aware and I think he has a great energy. I don't think like he's made a terrible album up until this point. Again, I haven't listened to the first one since it came out. And I think Gone Now and Take the Sadness Out of Saturday Night, I think those are good records. I think I have a problem with the disjointedness of the last record, but I think it's good. Like, I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, but kind of with you, it's always been like, I feel like I like a lot of some of the big singles he does, and then some of the B-sides, it's either can you tolerate it or not? And it just felt like it was like there was nothing in this album. And Tiny Moves was one of those things where that was one of the few times I actually got energy because that song it does not sound like Modern Girl. It is one of the more washed out songs, but like you said, I actually am sitting there like this is such a cute song. Like, I actually thought it was so well done. And I did not even think it was like corny or cringy. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is a really good song. And then I just
Yeah.
sat there the rest of the album wow. And like, again, once again, I see your response to it. And I was like, okay, people are crapping on it because they don't like Jack Antonoff or Bleachers, whatever. And I like Modern Girl, so I'm thinking to myself, like, but some of the other singles kind of had me worried. But I'm like, you know what? Wait for the album. And I think the only main thing I can give it is okay. Well, at least other than Modern Girl, the album is definitely consistent. Like in terms of it sounds like it's kind of a piece of work, but I don't know. Like it just felt dry and just so like and it's
Well,
like I
I
hate
will
being one of
say,
those people about Jack Antonoff because I don't dislike the guy. I don't dislike Bleachers. I don't dislike him. I think he's so talented. And I do think he makes pretty solid music. It's just this felt like everything that people don't like about the band or him, it felt like this is what this album was. And I
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like well, I don't think this record is really intended to like well, I don't think it's supposed to be like this energetic record per se. I think that is kind of like part of the point of it really like I think but really like and it kind of helps that I kind of have seem to know a little more about like heartland rock and kind of that style of music and how sometimes there's it's intended to not necessarily be like uh in your face, that it's supposed to be kind of like dreamy what dreamy like that, so that and I don't know, there are times where like even when this album did come across as corny, I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of just it's kind of just Jack doing what he does, and I actually like I don't really have a huge I am kind of like you where yeah, I don't really have a huge problem with it. But hey, like I would much rather you be mid on this record than Mannequin Pussy. So the fact that I
You're
got
like,
my
yeah.
wish with the yeah, yeah. The fact that I got my wish with the band that I actually like would consider myself a stan of, yeah, yeah. It's good that I at least got half of what I wanted here.
But also, that's the other thing. I like when we disagree because I
Yeah,
think one, that makes for more interesting conversation, but I never want it to ever come across like one of us has to convince the other person they're wrong or right, whatever.
yeah,
Like, I'm actually kind of excited that that ended up being a pick because, again, it makes it more interesting that you went in with a different mindset. Because I know I feel like I've been a little bit more, not lenient, but like more into them. So for you to be like, "Oh, I really like this," it's interesting. That's where the interesting conversation comes because then that's when the kind of back and forth happens.
oh
But
yeah, yeah. And then again, like you did like that Post Malone record, and you already know I never want to hear that fucking album again. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
oh,
Sorry.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, like I was
Yeah.
holy crap. Uh what?
Yeah.
I can't even speak right now. Oh my God, that was so funny. Uh
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
some of your favorite albums and singles to come out so far this year? What are you looking forward to? Leave it in the comments below. Check out all of Josh's stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
That was whoa. That was that God, that was good. That was
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Yep. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, but hey, yeah. I just had to yeah, yeah. I guess I guess we're kicking things off on a cathartic note for what's on repeat this year. But hey, yeah, yeah. So happy we could do this. But yeah, like yeah, yeah, but check out all our content. Peace out, everyone.
Oh, okay, peace.